the day, the matric pass rate, and we're asking whether our pass rate is in fact a good measure of how well our education system is doing, or whether we are simply fixated on the numbers. Nic Spaull is from the Stellenbosch University. He's an education researcher. He joins us from our studios in Cape Town. Thanks very much for your time, Nic. I'm just taking a look at your Twitter profile, and pinned to your profile right at the top is an issue we've been discussing all morning, this issue around the real matric pass rate if we consider the number of students enrolled in grade 1.
Yeah, so I think that the matric pass rate that was reported, the 78%, that's only one measure that we should be looking at. There are a lot of different other measures that we should also be incorporating. The most obvious one is looking at the throughput rate from grade 1. So if you have 1 million children that start school at the beginning of grade 1, and you only have 400,000 students that are passing grade 12, which is what happened this year in 2018, you could say that the pass rate is 40% instead of 78%. So we're not saying that you shouldn't look at the 78% in the matric pass rate, but that we need to be taking into these other statistics as well when discussing the matric results.
Are you also looking into issues around like the number of matric pupils who have written and excelled in subjects such as maths and physical science?
Yes, definitely. So I think this is another area that's kind of on Twitter, it came up as an area of concern. I think it was about 5,000 or 6,000 students that got distinctions or A's in maths and about 8,000 in physical science. So if you think of that million students that are starting school, this is less than kind of a fraction of 1% that are actually getting these marks that are likely to be the ones that are going on to be the innovators of the future for this fourth industrial revolution that everyone keeps speaking about. But more importantly than the distinctions that everyone keeps obsessing about is all of the students that don't have access to even basic literacy and numeracy skills, which a whole bunch of other assessments are telling us, like the PIRLS and TIMS results.
And Nic, if we just try to look a bit further back and unpack the education system as a whole, what did the Minister have to say when it came to issues like childhood literacy, our goal of having children able to read with meaning by a certain age?
Yeah. No, I think this was a very encouraging note that the Minister struck, and I was really impressed and happy, and it marks a departure from a lot of her earlier speeches where she is emphasizing things like the early grade reading study, early childhood development, ensuring that all children get access to early learning opportunities so that they do learn to read for meaning by the age of 10. And I think this is where the wheels come off. If we have 78% of our grade 4s that cannot read for meaning in any language, it's inevitable that down the line more than 50% of the students are going to drop out or not pass matric.
I mean, that issue is so key to so many of the failings in our education system. The reading for meaning issue means that going forward it affects your understanding of subjects like mathematics and science.
Definitely. So I think the way that our curriculum is structured is that the first 3 years of the schooling system are the learning to read phase, and then from grade 4 onwards it's the reading to learn phase. So that you're meant to use the skill that you've acquired to kind of learn in maths and science and social sciences, etc. So the fact that the majority of our learners, that 80% of grade 4s can't read for meaning in any language, means that they're effectively excluded from further learning as they move higher up into the system.
Yeah, absolutely. Nic, if we take a look at the reports around the matric results, and there are so many different issues that we can unpack, but if you were to comment on a whole on where we're at in terms of education in South Africa, focusing on subjects like maths and science and other important issues, what would that comment be?
So ironically, I actually think that South Africa is improving quite significantly. So the Minister, in her speech, she used this phrase, the age of hope, that we are moving into this age of hope in education. I think maybe that's laying it on a little bit thick. But I do think that there are a lot of signs of improvement. The number of bachelor passes, there have been improvements, even though the results are very, very low and dire in literacy and numeracy at the early grades. The different assessments are showing that those are increasing over time. So I do think that the South African education system is benefiting from having a stable curriculum, from having relatively good relationships with the unions and the Department of Basic Education, and stability in the sector. The only thing that we don't have that we really need is a primary school exam, which all students take. And I think this is something that is holding us back at the moment.
All right, some positive news there at least. Thanks very much for your time. Nic Spaull joining us there from our studios in Cape Town. He is an education researcher